What is the timing of Revelation chapter 12? It certainly gives us a timeline. It certainly tells us about the feasts. And it's very, very important to understand, guys. This is going to be a way we're going to try to simply describe to you the great mystery of the timeline of Revelation chapter 12. And as we do, guys, I know this is a YouTube channel that some of you watch and follow, and that's great. I know you follow other YouTube channels, okay? And I know the subject of Revelation chapter 12 is not new. Many people have talked about it. But they've talked about it with the vantage point of pre-tribulation rapture. Guys, think about prophecy like the fingernail on your little pinky. If you take one little part, one little fingernail, one little detail, one little verse, okay, and you don't realize that that fingernail is attached to a finger, and that finger is attached to a hand, and that hand is attached to an arm, and that arm is attached to a person. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take a big picture overview look of the prophecy, okay? Now, why did I go through all that description? Because if you take the whole vantage point of one verse, of one idea, of one aspect of the prophecy, like rapture, you're not going to connect that properly to the finger. You're not going to connect that to the hand. You're not going to connect that to the arm or the rest of the body, the rest of the prophecy. Because you think in your mind of only one thing, the fingernail on this pinky, and you will not listen to a finger, a hand, an arm, nothing else. So if you have this mindset, it's going to be very difficult you to hear the things I'm about to say, because I'm telling you the full picture. We're going to take the full picture. We're going to look at the whole body. We're going to look at the whole vantage point of the prophecy. And we're not even going to talk about rapture, okay? Because of this very thing. And this is the great error. Now, we're going to prove to you clearly we're in the tribulation, all right? Now, we've been saying this for years. We've been saying this 5 years. This all we be here, okay? And I know some of you have, videos you post on YouTube, channels you watch. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And you're going to find yourself here. Okay, you're going to keep saying, oh, these are all the signs of the tribulation. Yes, these are the signs of the tribulation, because you're in it. It's happening. If this is not apparent to you, even sinners can look and say, oh, this is the apocalypse. This is all the apocalypse movies, and they know they're in it. They're like, oh, this is kind of like a movie. This is like whatever apocalypse movie. There's, hundreds of them. So they know. But it's the believers that are in denial. Why? Because of this little pinky, this little fingernail, okay, where they said, we're out of here. We're going to be raptured. We're not going to have to see any of these things. Well, the things that you said you won't see, you're seeing. You're in it, okay? And so things are going to get worse and worse and worse. And so if you post videos on YouTube, pre-tribulation rapture, things are going to get more and more apparent that you're in it and you're still here. Okay, so what I suggest you do is, if you post videos on YouTube talking pre-tribulation rapture and you're denying the fact that you're in the tribulation, okay, tell the people you're sorry. Say, look, guys, I know I've been telling you things a certain way, all right, but it's obvious this is going down, okay, and I just want to tell you I'm sorry, and that I told you we're in a pre-tribulation rapture doctrine or teaching, and now I'm changing my thinking. Tell the people you're sorry, okay? You're just going to look more and more silly as it goes, where you say, no. You're going to be more and more in denial, okay? No, there's no Antichrist. No, everything is going to happen, and it's going to keep happening, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse for the people, and they're like, you told me I'd be out of here. You told me that, we're not, the people, the pressures, what I'm trying to tell you, the pressures are going to get worse and worse. Okay. And the pressure is going to come on you. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. So we want to tell the people the truth. We want to prepare them. We want to keep the souls from going out of the situation of taking the mark of the beast and going into the lake of fire. Okay? But that doesn't, if you say, okay, you're raptured, you're out of here, you don't have to deal, that doesn't help the people. Okay? That doesn't help the people that are, left to deal with all the things Apocalypse 7, the Antichrist, the mark of the beast system, all this, the New World Order. Okay? So tell the people you're sorry. All right? Be responsible. That's what the kingdom of heaven means. Repent. The kingdom is at hand. What does repent mean? It's saying I'm sorry. It's saying, look, we were wrong about this, okay? Now, let's get into the notes and let's look at the apocalypse. Apocalypse is 14 years. 7 plus 7. Okay, before we do look at the notes, let's talk about the feasts. Very important. So, in Revelation chapter 12, we do have the feasts described. Now, how the feasts work is you have, this time of year, you have Passover. Okay, that's why we're showing you the door, and you put the blood on the door. That's Passover. And the destroyer passes over. This is very important. We'll talk about this later, but that's this time of year. Then, 6 months later, you have the fall feast. In the fall feast, you have the Feast of Trumpets, you have the Feast of the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, and then you have Tabernacles, okay? So, when the scriptures are talking about things that are 3.5 years, what that means is it's going from one time period of a feast to another, okay? So, for example, when you see 1,260 days, 42 months, a time times and a half a time, all of those is 3.5 years, right? So let's say, for example, you start in the fall. In the fall, you have the Feast of Tabernacles. And let's say you got 3.5 years over there, right? So you got 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, okay? Then you have 6 months, okay? So 3.5 years from Tabernacles is going to bring you to Passover, right? Now, let's say you got 3.5 years from Passover. Okay, then you got 1 year, 2 year, 3 years and a half. Okay, that half is 6 months. 6 months is going to bring you on the other side of the year in the fall, and you're going to be back at Tabernacles. Okay, so what just happened there is we just did 7 years. 3.5 years from Tabernacles is Passover. 3.5 years from Passover is back to Tabernacles. A full 7 years later. Now, this symbolism we can see in Revelation 12. Okay, it talks about these feasts. Okay, you have to understand the feast in order to see the symbolism, what it's talking about. Revelation chapter 11, verse 19, it's the last verse going into Revelation 12, where it says, there was a great wonder, sign in heaven of the woman clothed with the sun. The verse ahead of that says, the temple of God was open in heaven, and there was seen in the temple the Ark of the Covenant. What is this? This is the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement is the one day of the year the high priest could have entered into the Holy of Holies where the Ark of the Covenant was, and he placed the offering. Okay, there was only one day of the year. So when it's saying that, the temple of God was open in heaven and was seen in the temple, the Ark of the Covenant, it's telling us about the Day of Atonement. Now, in the Enoch calendar, this is why the calendar is right, because in September 22nd, 2017, it was the Day of Atonement on that precise day. Okay? For all the Jewish calendar, you wouldn't know this. Okay, it was that precise day. So, then it says, okay, then she births a man-child, then she goes in the wilderness, what? 1,260 days. So what's that? So, okay, now we're over here. We're over here. Now we say Day of Atonement, Tabernacles, that's just a season. So we go from that, and then she goes into the wilderness 1,260 days. That's what? 1, 2, 3 years and a half. Bringing us over to Passover. Then we see Passover in verse 11. They overcame by what? The blood of the Lamb. The blood of the Lamb is Passover. It's taking the principle of what Christ did. The blood and putting on the doorpost of the house. The blood of the Lamb. Okay, that's how we overcome. Then the what? The destroyer passes over. Okay? Okay, so then if we're at, now we did Day of Atonement, 1,260 days. Now we're at Passover. Then she's given 2 wings of an eagle. Okay? That she would fly into her place. A time times and a half a time. What's that? That's 3.5 years. 3.5 years from Passover is what? 1, 2, 3. 6 months back to Tabernacles. Okay? Full 7 years. So that's what we can see right there in Revelation chapter 12. 7 years. So let's look at our notes and let's see how clearly it shows us the time that we're in. All right, here's our big picture over here, right here, guys. We've been showing you these types of patterns. You can see it's got 7 sides. And you can see what it says here. First 7 years. So there's a lot of information that proves everything we're showing you. And we're going to provide some of that. For time's sake, we won't get to all of it. There's lots of other videos where we talk about this. But this is the whole body of the prophecy. First 7 years and the second 7 years. One video I strongly encourage you to watch. I have a video on everything you need to know about the first 7 years. Okay? And it covers things that we're showing you here and more detail about that time period. So we have that period of 7 years. Then we have another period of 7 years. So we run into great problems and errors when we try to fit all this stuff together into, some people say, okay, the tribulation or everything is only 3.5 years. No, it's 14. Okay? So there's certain things that have to happen in certain places. Now, it's possible that they could overrun, yes, okay? But principally, the scriptures give the timeline. We don't give the timeline. The scriptures say these things specifically, okay? So, as it relates to Revelation 12, let's take a look at the first 7 years. Now, some of you may, if you've been following this type of prophecy stuff for a few years, you may remember something called the lunar tetrad, or the 4 blood moons, right? And there was all this excitement, all this enthusiasm about the 4 blood moons back in Passover 2014. So it happened in Passover 2014. Then, what do we have? 6 months later, Tabernacles 2014. Then we have it again, Passover 2015. Tabernacles 2015. Okay? There's a lot of excitement, enthusiasm. What does it mean? Well, if we go from this Passover 2014 and we go 3.5 years, okay, we end up with the Revelation chapter 12 sign, September 22nd, 2017. Okay? So what is this time period? What does this mean? Okay, these are solar and lunar eclipses. Now, these are lunar eclipses here, and we're marking them here. So they start with lunar. They start with the 4 tetrad. Now, let's remember how we showed you Passover, 6 months later, Tabernacles. So in this chart that we're showing you, you can see here it says Passover 2014. So at this point is Passover, and then you have 6 months. 6 months later is Tabernacles. So what we're showing you is we're just illustrating, because guys, when you talk about time, it's best to visualize time, okay, and then just talking about it. You saw I talked about it earlier, but now I'm going to repeat what I said based on graphics. So this is a full blood moon here. This happened in Passover 2014. Then we have another full blood moon. This happened in Tabernacles 2014. Then we have a third one, full blood moon, Passover 2015. Then we have another one, full blood moon, Tabernacles 2015. So remember how we were saying before, 6 months, how the year alternates. Passover, Tabernacles, Passover, Tabernacles, okay? So the interval of time between here and here is a year, okay? And these solar and lunar eclipses, there's solar eclipses too. Now we see that prophecy in Matthew. Let's look at Matthew. Matthew 24, verse 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened. solar eclipse. The moon shall not give her light, lunar eclipse. And Revelation chapter 6, verse 12, the sun became sackcloth as hair, solar eclipse, and the moon became blood. Those are blood moons, okay? So what are the blood moons telling us? They're telling us about the seals. Now, in Matthew 24, verse 8, it said, these are the beginning of sorrows, okay? The sorrows here is birth pains. So in Greek, this word is odim, and it means pain, travail in childbirth, to travail in childbirth. So these are the beginning, arche in Greek, like we get archangel, okay? Beginning, arche, of birth pains. So those are the beginning of the birth pains in Matthew 24, verse 8, where you'll see, he said, you'll see earthquakes in diverse places, you'll see famines, pestilence, wars, rumors of wars. These are the beginning of sorrows. Now this same word we find in Revelation 12 too, the birth pains. Why? She travailed in birth and pain to deliver. Okay, so travail in birth in Greek is odino, to experience pain in childbirth. So what does this mean? This means that the lunar tetrad in this time period, starting in 2014, was the birth pains, the beginning, okay, of sorrows. This is the seals of Revelation, because we can see, he said, you'll see the moon turn to blood. All right, we saw that in 2014, okay? And then it's the sign of Passover. So in Revelation chapter 6, verse 1, actually I got it right here. I saw the Lamb open one of the seals, okay? So the Lamb is Passover. Then in verse 16, okay, the face of him that sits on the throne, the wrath of the Lamb. Okay, so now what this is talking about, he's coming in his throne. Okay, for the great day of his wrath is come, who shall be able to stand? So then it begins to describe his throne. After these I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, the sea, nor any tree. This throne is clearly seen in Matthew 24, okay? Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in clouds and glory with power and great glory, and he shall send his angels with a great sound or voice of the trumpet, and they shall gather together the elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So what we have is his throne, the wrath of the Lamb. And this is perfectly corresponding to what we see in Esther. In Esther, Vashti refuses the king. And the king was very wroth, very angry, because she rejected the marriage supper. Now, the king had a feast of 180 days. That's this period of time here, between Passover and Tabernacles, 180 days. Okay? So what happened is the king became angry, and then he said, okay, give me a new bride. He divorced Vashti, and he said, give me a new bride, and then comes Esther. Now, Esther starts her preparation, and this begins, and she completes it at the completion of 7 years. So Esther, her story lines up perfectly with Revelation chapter 12. Okay, and actually, let's turn our notes onto the side. And I will make these available so you guys can get them. So then we have Revelation 12 and the sign of the woman clothed with the sun. This happened on a precise day, the Day of Atonement, September 22nd, 2017. So it was after 7 years that Esther's taken to the king. Then it says clearly, she then goes into the wilderness 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. Then afterwards it says she's given 2 wings of an eagle, that she fly into her place, a time, times, and a half a time. That's another 3.5 years. So clearly from this point of the Day of Atonement, September 22nd, 2017, you have a 7-year period. And that's what we're showing you and illustrating here. So all the stories, all the the verses and the big picture of the Bible makes it clear that it's the prophecy is 14 years. Okay, so then we arrive at the second period of 7 years. Okay, so we saw Revelation 11:19. The temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in the temple the Ark of the Covenant. So this is telling us about Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Okay, that's when the high priest was able to go before the ark once a year. So that's Revelation 11, verse 19. All right, giving us a precise date, September 22nd, 2017, the sign that appeared in the heavens. As well, we've also proven this with Daniel. So let me show you this real quick. We also arrived at the same date of September 22nd, 2017 through Daniel's timeline. For time's sake, I'm not going to get into it. We have a whole other video on this, guys. But these are prophecies that we announced ahead of time. Okay, we saw Obama fulfill certain things related to this prophecy, giving us a trigger event of when the tribulation would start. Okay, so what I'm trying to point out is that we have multiple confirmations of this time period of 7 years here. So the 7 years is the time period after the sign of the womb, clove, and the sun of 7 years. I'll put another link in the description field for that video of Daniel's timeline. But notice in our graphic here, see these circles here. What these are indicating is a continuation of solar and lunar eclipses that take place over 10 years. So just like we saw the full lunar tetrad of 4 blood moons, we're marking more full lunar eclipses as a blood moon. Okay, that's what this is. That's what this is. These continue marking the seasons or intervals of time of these 180 days. Okay. So, for example, this time period begins with Revelation chapter 12, Yom Kippur 2017. Okay, so this would be the season of fall and winter, and then we come to spring, which is Passover 2018. Now, in that interval of time, there was a solar eclipse that marked that period of time. Then there's a full lunar eclipse, which marks the next period of time from Passover, spring, summer. Then it continues, and you have another, and another, and another, and another, and another. So you can see that there are 14 of these here. Each of these are marking the intervals of time that we're talking about here of this time period of 6 months. Tabernacles, Passover, Passover to Tabernacles, etc. Okay, so we can see that this feast of the Day of Atonement, 2017, begins the next 7 years, and that's what we can see in Revelation 12, verse 5. She brought forth the man-child. So when she brought forth the man-child, okay, that's this precise date. Yom Kippur 2017, she fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared of God, and he fed her there 1,260 days. What's that? 3.5 years. From the Day of Atonement, September 22nd, 2017. So we're Day of Atonement, which is here, and you have 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So up on the other side of this, you can see this is 3.5. This is Passover 2021. Okay, so that's 3.5 years later, we come to Passover. We see Passover, Revelation 12, verse 11. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb. Passover, which is Passover, 1,260 days later in 2021. Okay, you see that? So, clearly in Revelation chapter 12, we have Yom Kippur. Then, 1,260 days later, Passover, 2021. Okay? Then the woman was given 2 wings of an eagle, a great eagle, that she should fly into the wilderness, into her place where she was nourished for what? A time, times, and a half a time. What's that? 3.5 years. So from this period, we have a time, times, it's 2, and half a time. That's another 3.5 years. Thus, from the Day of Atonement 2017, it's precisely 7 years. Okay? So this is clearly the timetable that is given to us in Revelation chapter 12. Okay? So this is our big picture view, guys. This is the big picture view. This is, and I'll make the notes available to you. I encourage you to study all the time the notes and the information we share with you on this channel. So get these notes. As you recall, we've talked about the sign of the woman clothed with the sun at Christ's birth. It told us that it would be 2 years till the son of perdition, the Antichrist, is revealed. Okay? So we have that other video. Hopefully you watch these in series. If you do, it'll be helpful to you. It makes sense. Then we have Revelation 12, Christ being our firstborn from the dead. Okay, so Revelation chapter 12 was also fulfilled at that time. Then we're going to have another video after this where we talk about the man-child in the last days. But I found it necessary before getting into that to simply explain the timetable in Revelation 12. So this is a new playlist of Revelation 12, the sign of the woman clothed with the sun. Okay, this is many parts to it. I'm not even sure what part we're at, but I really encourage you to go through these videos while you have the time. Please study. Please educate yourself on the book of Revelation. You're in it. It's happening. Okay, you haven't been raptured out of here. You got to deal with this. Okay, you got to deal with the prophecy. You got to learn what's going on. If you know what's going on, you can know what's going to happen next. Okay, so guys, thanks for watching, and God bless you.